Okay, welcome everyone to this latest webinar slash seminar slash workshop on ChatGPT and artificial intelligence and how you can use these, budding technologies, new technologies to help you with your, careers, jobs, personal lives, etc. It should be a very exciting discussion led by Andronicos, who is the tech expert and should provide you with plenty of tips and suggestions on how to use this technology for your day-to-day life and work. Let me get some admin issues out of the way. I will be moderating this session on behalf of LGCA and EIMF, your hosts today. We are recording the session. The session's recording should be available within the next few days. There's also a part 2 of this course that will be provided to all attendees alongside the recording for part 1. If you have any questions for Andronicos as you're listening to his presentation, please use the Q&A function on Teams. The chat has been disabled for this event, so make sure to use the Q&A to submit any questions. Around 12:30 or so, we will be covering these questions and any other sort of queries you might have related to the topic. With that said, let me introduce Andronicos. This course will be led by Andronicos, a charismatic and accomplished speaker, trainer, and master communicator. He is known affectionately in some circles as a Greek geek. Andronicos has a talent for making complex concepts accessible and engaging for everyone. He is renowned for his innovative communication methods, visual props, and a keen sense of humor. Andronicos rose to public prominence as an independent candidate in the 2023 Cyprus presidential election. Despite Greek being his second language, in just 77 days, he harnessed music, compelling visuals, and satire to spread his political ideas, transforming himself from an unknown into a widely recognized figure on the streets. Drawing on 40+ years of technology expertise, Andronicos will guide you through this AI and ChatGPT course. He is an expert in enterprise problem and change management automation and has previously led customer courses for leading organizations, including IBM in Europe. Now semi-retired, Andronicos is eager to share his insights and knowledge with you, and he's going to provide you with a little bit of information on his background and his, passion for AI and ChatGPT. So Andronicos, the floor is all yours.
Matteo, thank you so much for that introduction. You've put me on quite a high pedestal there, so I hope I don't fall off. But one thing I do want to say is I'm very impressed. You are the only person from South America that I know anywhere in the world that speaks fluent Greek. You're from Ecuador, aren't you, Matteo?
Yes, I'm from Ecuador. I don't know if my Greek is fluent, but it's strong enough that I can manage.
That's great. And I do thank the EIMF and the LGCA for inviting me to do this presentation. I'm going to try and make it into a pleasant experience. It's not going to be all techno speak, that I promise. It's going to be easy to understand, because what we are going to see today is possibly the greatest invention for the mass markets with technology that has ever happened. Now, that's a pretty dramatic start, but hopefully as we go through this course, we will understand what I mean. And at the end, it's going to be up to you to decide whether I've exaggerated. So let me do a little bit of additional background about my experience. I think it's important. If somebody's sitting here and you've invested and going to invest some of your time, you need to know a little bit more about him. And in terms of my work experience with technology, at management level, at some pretty large customers, when it comes to IT, there is a fundamental thing that is critical to systems, absolutely critical. And that's what's called problem, change, and risk management. And back after I began my career early in the mid to late 70s, working for a large bank in IT in the UK, within a few years, I became a consultant, went to another financial institution, and they asked me to design a system for their problem and change, which means When a bank or any organization in the world makes a change over there, it can affect something over here. So they have to find ways of fixing these problems. And changes cause problems, problems cause changes, and it's all to do with risk management. So it's a very important system. And I had an interesting job. Not only did I have to help build these processes, I had to automate them. And I had to learn a brand new language, a programming language from IBM to do this. So there was no expertise in the whole of Europe for this language. So I spoke to IBM and I said, oh, let me teach the courses so that we can show other people how to use it. And I taught many courses throughout Europe. Then I did my own courses on running help desks. And, you know, the very first help desks where people phone in with a problem, well, we spent a lot of time with that automating. So I have a lot of background in problem, in change, in risk, and arguably, because of all the feedback people have said about AI, ranging from absolute fear to delight, it's very much involved in risk management. And we're going to develop that as we go along. So let's talk about my disclaimers. Let's start off. Firstly, this presentation is in good faith. I have done substantial research. However, ChatGPT is like a baby. It's only 7 months old. And it's very difficult to take something to pieces and analyze it in depth. In good faith, we've done that. It's changing every day. AI, not just ChatGPT, is changing every day with all add-ons and changes. So please do your own research. Please get the permission of your organization before using it. And we're going to cover that as well, as far as the risk aspects and how things can go wrong if they're not handled properly. The other thing to bear in mind in this disclaimer is at some point, if we get time, I will help you write a PhD, at least the structure of a PhD, in just a few minutes. It's to show off the power of AI and not so that people who are currently doing a PhD can cheat. And I want to make a big word of warning. Please, if you are doing a PhD or master's or any type of degree, check with your university before using ChatGPT for anything, even if it is to perfect the grammar, because it is said at some point in the future, they will watermark digitally anything it creates. So please bear those points in mind. I'm sure we're going to have some fun, and I will start this journey now by talking about intelligence. What is intelligence? Before we can talk about artificial intelligence, what is intelligence? Well, let's have some examples. There are people alive today who can remember pi, you know, the mathematical formula we all learned at school. It's used in physics and maths to divide the circumference of a circle by its diameter. And the number is 3.14159. And then it goes on potentially forever. There's somebody in Japan that has memorized that to 100,000 digits. That's amazing. Here's another type of intelligence. A lot of us like quiz shows. I used to enjoy, when I was in the UK a lot, Mastermind and The Chase. Hey, if I could answer half the questions on Mastermind, it made my day. And generally I couldn't. The same with The Chase. There are people who have an incredible memory for information. Let's take another example of intelligence. At the United Nations, there are translators who have memorized, or who know 10 or 20 languages. They simultaneously translate live. That's a certain type of intelligence. I'd like to tell you about my older son, who's 46. He was born when I was a teenage as a teenager. And he was born severely disabled. Yet he had an incredible intelligence and memory for football statistics, for maps, for people's birthdays, and the top 20 records going back from the 1970s till the early 2000s. You know, what was number one? January 1974. Now that's a certain type of intelligence, yet he is severely disabled and lives in cared accommodation for adults. Incidentally, I did a little film about him in 2006, just before the 2006 German World Cup. It's on my Facebook page, Andronicos CY. It only lasts 3 minutes. It's an extract from that, just to show, for inspirational reasons, how we can go, even though we may have challenges in life. I invite you to watch it at some point. So that's the different types of intelligences as far as humans. Then we have animals. It was a photo of a kitten, a little feral kitten I adopted some years back, and I saw it playing with a twig. But it wasn't a twig, it was a baby blunt-nosed viper. And so I took this lucky photo of them watching each other. The next photo is this little kitten eating the head of this viper, which is the most dangerous snake in Europe, the Middle East, the Levant, and North Africa. Now, that's intelligence. I can't do that. I dare say you can't do that. And we probably don't want to do that. But that's a different intelligence. And here's an example, a simple example of AI. I've got one of these little vacuum cleaners that goes around the floor, it's a little round thing. And quite happily, it moves around, bumps its little head, gets its little bottom stuck, then moves around, finds its way out, and carries on cleaning. It's mesmerizing to watch sometimes. However, I'm not worried that which is ostensibly an AI-powered robot, is going to murder me overnight. The worst that will happen is I may get electrocuted if I plug it in with wet hands into the mains to recharge it, or I may trip over it. So I've given you some basic examples of AI. And what I want to discuss now is I'm going to go straight into the one that has taken the world by storm, which is called ChatGPT, and developed by an organization called OpenAI, which has been backed by other organizations such as Microsoft to the tune of billions. So, with no further ado, I am already in the screen. I'm already showing ChatGPT. To register, all you do is you go to the OpenAI homepage, so search ChatGPT, you sign up, and after you signed up, you just enter a password, you choose a user ID and email, sends you a link, you click, and the next screen you get is this. So, it's owned by OpenAI. It's ChatGPT, and it is a large language model. This course is about this one specifically. There are others, and they are very good. There's something called Bing. There's Bard. Bard is backed by Alphabet, which owns Google. And they're all large language models, which ostensibly means you end up with the world's cleverest PA, who can speak 100 languages, who can be your own think tank, that can write letters for you, emails, can do a multitude of stuff. And the next screen that we get, which is the main one, so I'm going to now ask it something. What I've done is I've added, can you see at the bottom of my screen is a little microphone bar?
Yep.
I added that. I normally wouldn't use it. It doesn't belong to ChatGPT. It's a plugin. It's actually not a plugin. It's a Google Chrome extension. I'm neither recommending nor not recommending it. I'm just saying I'm using it to make it simple, because now I can talk to it rather than type. and I don't want to embarrass myself with all my typing errors, speed typing here. So I'm going to go straight to the first question I'm going to ask, which is, provide 20 explanations for an art object. It is a fruit bowl laden with abundance, fruit and vegetables, with the head of a mannequin in the center of the bowl. How can this symbolize AI? So let's see its reaction. Right, and the reason I'm doing this is in the course leaflet, right at the top was exactly that. There's a fruit bowl with a head in, and some people thought, well, what's this? And so I'm asking AI for its idea, for what it believes is the reason, and it's given 20 reasons. I invite you to read these after this course, when we've presented all the information and giving you all the documentation. I want to reiterate, this course, this workshop will be at quite a fast pace. I recognize some people don't speak English as a first language, but what I'm going to do for you, everything I'm going to present, plus a lot more, not only will it be a video, but it'll all be done in one big document in English and Greek. But please stay on, let's watch it. You'll need to hear me speak so I can explain through some of these examples. So no need to deep dive in, to look into detail, but here they are, that's its ideas. But now I'm going to ask it something else. How can that fruit bowl symbolize negative things about AI? So let's see what it says. See, it's giving negative reasons. It's giving 5. I could say, okay, give me, it's just like talking to a PA. It's like talking to your own secretary. Give me 10 reasons. So it's now providing those reasons. Oh, sorry about that. Oh, I forgot to switch the mic. There you go. I carried on talking when I should have stopped the mic. So it carries on. Now, if we don't like a particular response, we can regenerate, and it'll give me another one. And I can keep doing that. It'll ask me if I like that one better. I'm going to ignore it. Okay? So, another useful thing about this conversation is, if I wanted to send it to somebody, here it is, that's the conversation I've just had, or I can delete it, or I can share it with somebody else. And what it does is put all that conversation, that chat, in a link. I can now copy that link, open my email program, and send it. Okay? So that's an example of where it's very useful. Personally, I'd rather put it in a Word doc, send it to colleagues, and then we can collaborate rather than sending them sort of hard-coded, HTML pages. Okay, so let's ask it another question. This time I'm going to say, I am a banking regulator. How can ChatGPT help me? So, it's giving you all of these ideas. Try this when you register. Put your job in, and it'll give you loads of ideas. You can, if you don't like them, you can regenerate the response. And I'm using the free version of ChatGPT. There are 2 versions. I am using 3.5. For $20 a month, sorry, I'm sounding like a salesman here as if I'm trying to sell licenses, which I'm not. For $20 a month, you can get version 4, which has a lot of great functionality. I'm limiting my use because you can only do 25, it's called messages, or 25 transactions every 3 hours, because it takes a lot of processing power back where they've got all their servers. So I've put it for a regulator. Let's ask it, I am a lawyer. How can you help me? So let's see what it says. I could then tell it to do 20 reasons. Turn my lawyer question and answer into a PowerPoint presentation. So it's now going in, turning it into the slides. It says, give me ideas. It's created the slides. If I don't like them, I regenerate. I can then copy and paste these, get somebody to do the actual slides. And there is code, but this course is not about putting, interfacing with codes or application programming interfaces so you don't have to code stuff. That's a separate course. Everything I'm doing now in natural language, and I could even do it in Greek or Spanish or Italian. Remember, it speaks 100 languages. I can do it in my local language, in my best language. So, how about this? Let me do it this way. Translate slide 6 of the above presentation into Greek. So, thank you. There we go. It's thinking about it. Can you see the 3 little dots next to the send a message button? It's done it. If I go to the bottom, this is where it gets a little fiddly. Let's just regenerate it, be quicker. Let me go into another chat.
Didn't appear, it seems.
Has it appeared on your screen? There we go.
Oh, there we go. There it is. Yep.
Right. So translate 6. I could have said translate the whole presentation in Greek, right? Okay. Now I want to ask it. I want to show off, actually. I think because I'm used to it. Translate slide 5 into ancient Latin from 50 CE. Let's see what will happen. It does work. I don't know if it'll work on this particular one. There we go. Studied in ancient Latin. And look, as far as what it can do, I suggest you try it out. So in other words, we are going to do a particular course, should people want it in certain disciplines, whether you are regulators or bankers, through the EIMF. However, my suggestion is play with it, ask it, how will it help me in my life, in my job, for my organization? So let me do something else now. I'm going to delete this chat. Now I'm going to keep that chat because I want to show you. That's what I promised. I'm going to do a new chat. Right, it's new. I'm going to use 3.5. That is the free version. So if you subscribe for the first time, that's the only one you will see. Version 4 is the one you've got to pay for. It's $20 a month, as I said earlier. And I'm going to use the default version of 3.5. I'm just going to show you just one thing if you are planning to use this. It doesn't like funny accents. Okay? So I'm going to try and do a Cockney accent. Let's see if this works. Where can I buy 4 candles, mate? Okay, won't work. Where can I buy 4 candles? Doesn't work. And it's not ChatGPT's fault. What I'm trying to say is, where can I buy 4 handles, as in for gardening forks? That was a 2 Ronnie sketch from many years ago, which I wanted to share with you. So if you've got a problem with an accent, don't use this bar. I just wanted to throw that in case people get a little bit frustrated in trying to use it. Let's do another chat. This time, let's see how good it is to write resumes. Now, sorry, let's stop that. When you're writing a resume, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to leave your employer. It could be for an internal meeting where the latest you've developed, your abilities. It could be for HR reasons. So I'm going to take ChatGPT to the limits I am going to ask it to do something particularly difficult. And I'm going to read this rather than me typing it and saying it badly, okay? My name is Stavros Archibald. I am 21 years old and never had a formal education, having been in the British youth prison system for 15 years. I am a great cook. My fusion of Cypriot dishes to French or Italian ones is unique. Help me write an incredible CV. Let's see what it does. Okay. Culinary expert. That's pretty good for a first attempt, actually. And of course, in reality, remember, anything ChatGPT does for you, and the other AI models are similar, it doesn't actually go and send an email off. It doesn't actually write, you've got to copy and paste it. And the way to copy and paste it, I've shown you one method by using the toolbar on the left, but the other way is, can you see over here? There's a little clipboard. So if I want to copy that, I copy it, put it in a Word doc, and we're off and away. So it's done that. Well, how about taking it a bit step further? Okay. Propose 10 fusion dishes which I will experiment with and prepare if I am invited for an interview. So let's see if it can do some of these fusion dishes. Well, that's an interesting one. Moussaka ravioli. Ratatouille pizza with halloumi. Oh, we must try that at home. Cypriot beef bourguignon. Okay, well, I'm really curious. I don't. Coco van souvlaki. All right, let's see that. Provide a recipe for coco van souvlaki. That's pretty impressive, I think. Okay, so you've got this poor lad, he's been in the youth prison system since he was 6 years old for some reason, which I daren't ask, assuming it's not food poisoning people. And here we have ChatGPT giving us immediate answers to stuff that would have taken quite a while to research. Sure, he could have gone on to Google to try and find the recipes, but can you see how ChatGPT, this incredible tool, is like your own PA and can do some pretty amazing stuff. Okay, let me do something with your help to help the world. That's an example I've already done. You don't want to hear me keep reading stuff that I'm typing for it to answer. So I've done, and this is example 12, right. I got the idea, and this is non-political, so I can actually mention it. I did put it in my presidential manifesto because I think it can help the world. I got the idea because we didn't know my son was almost totally deaf until he was 5, my oldest son, who has got these special abilities. And then I thought, well, how about doing something like this? So here's one I've prepared earlier. Again, don't worry, I'm going to go through this pretty quickly. However, all will be copied and pasted into a big document. Right, here it is. Write a letter from the President of Cyprus to the UN Secretary General. It will propose that the UN initiative and a UN initiative be implemented so that every nation in the world teaches every person on the planet 20 to 30 emergency phrases using a variation of sign language used by the deaf. This common standard can be used as a signal by a child, adult, or vulnerable person that feels threatened at home or abroad. And when Cyprus sends emergency help after an earthquake, rescue workers can communicate with each other. Okay? Okay, I've put 20 or 30. It could be 10 or 20. So as you scroll down, ChatGPT wrote a really good letter suggesting the proposal. Warmest regards. Then I asked ChatGPT, wherever you see AN, that's Andronicos, in case you wondered, says, okay, propose emergency phrases. So he came up with a few. I'm lost, I'm injured, stay calm. Then I said, well, create another one for emergency workers after an earthquake. Is anyone injured? Are you trapped? Okay, that was its first draft. So I'm saying, well, all right, so I spent 15 minutes doing this with you, ChatGPT, your great tool, but let's get some human stakeholders. Who should we involve to discuss this? So it said, well, let's get linguists, sign language experts, emergency response professionals, medical professionals, etc., etc. NGOs, always a good idea to involve NGOs. Right, so I'm saying, okay, let's assume the task force has completed its findings, create a plan to educate everyone, because the proof is in the pudding, eh? So he told me, he said, well, here's which curriculums to use, media campaigns, right. So I said, okay, write a press release from the president's office explaining this initiative. The president is called Nikos Christodoulides. So, oh, pretty good. How much time will that help? I mean, look, let's face it. The CEOs of companies, presidents, ministers, secretaries in the United States, they've got whole groups of people doing speeches. It's not about those people losing their jobs. It's about help to do their jobs. And the last thing I think I did is, and this really impressed me actually, it's now write a rousing speech by the president to use at the UN General Assembly. Style, emotional, emphasizing how many lives can be saved. And I'll just say, I'll read the first bit. Ladies and gentlemen, I stand before you today as the President of the Republic of Cyprus, but also as a representative of our shared human experience, a testament to our collective power when we decide to collaborate, cooperate, and care for one another. There is a profound statement, an unspoken understanding that binds all. It transcends our unique cultures, languages, and experiences to connect us through our shared humanity today. We are here to honor that connection and take significant stride towards making our world a safer, more inclusive, and more compassionate place. I am proud to introduce, there it goes on. I was really, really impressed actually that it did that. And I think that was the first take. I did two versions of that and I kept the second. Can you see, remember what I said earlier? You can regenerate. So that was my second attempt. And that's what we used. And then I said, well, this is more a memo note to everybody. Great job. I hope someone in influence who may be reading this will trigger the research needed. And then a bit of a wake-up call. Cyprus universities, can you take the lead? Okay. By the way, so anyway, I'm going to end that example with one little point. When I'm communicating with ChatGPT, I tend to be polite, and that's, even though I'm Cypriot, you probably gathered I've had a lot of British influence in my life, so I swing both ways. Greek, Cypriot, and British, and I've learned to be quite polite. So I do queue up. I don't jump queues. I put my knife and fork in the middle of the plate, and stuff like that. One thing, so I do say yes and please and thank you. What I find, if I stop doing it just because it's a machine and a robot, when I am sending an instruction to somebody, whether it's an SMS or a quick email, I'll forget to do it. That's why I keep doing it. But also it's to hedge my bets. The way I look at it, if in a few years ChatGPT is going to take over the world, or AI, and destroy us, at least I can say, but I knew you when you were a baby. You're only 6 months old, and I was so polite. Anyway, that was just a throwaway comment. So next thing we're going to show is I've done the Lego bricks. Do I want to show? Here's something useful. I call this the Cyprus Forms Update Act. This is an example of how this incredible product can act as a think tank. I'd rather call it an incubator of ideas. Because I'm using a government example, it's not to criticize the government or the civil service, it's just to seed ideas. If you run a business, if you're a regulator or a lawyer, you can also streamline how things you do by asking questions to ChatGPT like this. So here's one I've been prepared. Many government forms are hard-coded into laws. So for example, if you want to get, if you're a pensioner, you've got to use a form which is under Section 12 of the Pensions Act. And what I'm saying is, create a law that will allow the Cabinet, which here is called the Council of Ministers, and the President, decide what to change, subject to Parliament being given 30 days notice to veto. And if they do veto, as is now, the President can go to the Supreme Court for just cause and appeal. Now, by doing this, and here we are, it's written it, we've done the preamble, we don't have to go into deep dive. So I said, okay, translate it into Greek, include my original request to you in English and Greek. And it's done that for me. It will all be in the write-up, you're all going to get it, all this stuff. Let's analyze this for a second. Let's look real world. In the real world, AI, in this case, ChatGPT, is not suddenly, this is not a law. This is a skeleton of a law. Real laws can run to pages, but it gives ideas. It helps incubate ideas, and it's something you can do in your organizations. Okay? All right, let's do something else. I'm going to do something new. Let me, oops, new chat. So, okay, let me just show you something. On my left is all the chats I've had, well, the ones I haven't deleted, on this particular laptop. And there are many, there's over 100. There is one issue is, you can't really sort them. It kind of, if you've edited them, it puts to the top of the list. There is an extension that allows you to do it. I wanted it to keep it as much vanilla as possible. And plus the fact I didn't study what this extension could do. And I don't want my data going to a third party. I trust to a degree the OpenAI organization, the people who own ChatGPT, and we'll discuss about some of the risks later. Remember, risk management was my forte. So with this one, what I'm going to say is, we're going to do a new thing. I'm going to write a letter of complaint, okay? This time I'm going to use ChatGPT 4 without any plugins, right? Plugins are a way that, and there's 700 of them, that you can do some pretty neat stuff, like connect to Expedia and eventually to shopping sites, because at the moment, ChatGPT has knowledge, is a repository of humankind's knowledge from the beginning of recorded history till September 2021. It doesn't know the Queen died. It doesn't know Boris Johnson is no longer the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. It doesn't know that yet. However, there are ways to access the internet where it gets information. And you do that via what are called plugins, one of which allows you to read PDFs and stuff like that. So I'm going to write a letter of complaint. And again, I'm going to use a bizarre example. And this example will show you whether it'll sink or swim. Okay, let me do this letter of complaint. Write a formal letter of complaint to my mobile telephone operator Cyprus cheap mobile services. I bought a cheap smartphone, advertised as waterproof, and subscribed to its unlimited world plan. However, when using the phone underwater while scuba diving near Ayia Napa, it had no signal and wouldn't work afterwards. My name is Andronicos, asked for a new phone and €200 of extras in compensation. Yeah, that's odd. Let's see what it does. Okay. So it's firing away. Cyprus cheap phones, okay. Acquired a Yorko smartphones, which was advertised, fully waterproofed. I went scuba diving. It was complete disappointment. Device failed. That's pretty good. First example. I could do a second one, but you get the drift. And again, in real life, you will copy and paste that, tweak it. You can say, here we go. Let me do something here. Include a couple of sentences in my letter of complaint, telling them I have been a customer for over 20 years. So it'll either just give me that. There we go. It's rewritten it for you. Isn't that good service? We are looking at the best PA on the planet. Multi-languages, writes speeches, writes emails, writes letters, can complain. Okay, let's do something else. I want to show this example so that then I can show you how journalists can use it. We've got 2 minutes left, and we're going to talk about something else, aren't we, Matteo?
Yeah, you can. I think you could run through one more example, and then we can take a quick detour, I guess.
Right. Okay. Well, let's try and find a simple example. No, these are too difficult. No, these are too long. All right. Here's a simple example, which will be very quick. If I can find it, let me see. I wasn't going to show this, but I think I will. No, I won't. Let's go into our part where we're going to discuss the 5 laws. Should we do that?
Sure, let's do it.
Okay, right. So I've said all these good things about ChatGPT. I've already said I'm very au fait with large organizations when it comes to risk management. And there's me telling you all how wonderful it is. But let's talk about risks now, and let's then talk about risks for the future. So I have written 5 laws, which I'm not the sage of Cyprus, I'm not in charge of the world, I'm not a president, but they're ideas for kind of better governance of AI. But before I go into the deep dive, because that's more for the future, let me tell you ChatGPT's limitations now. And this affects other AI systems as well. It hallucinates. It sounds kind of a bit trippy. By hallucinate, I mean it will give you unexpected results. So it may come up and say, the Prime Minister of France is in jail, which he's not. It comes up with silly things. A lot of that is to do with if it has accessed the web and found a website that says that, it may think it is true.
Right.
There's been a recent case where a judge banned the use of ChatGPT in his court, which I think was a little overkill, because a lawyer had given a deposition, replied with case law that didn't exist. They were false.
It was all made up, yeah.
It was all made up. Now, the lawyer, good faith, he didn't do it on purpose. he probably used a paralegal who got it off ChatGPT. So see, if you're a lawyer, if you see ChatGPT as being a problem, well, don't use it, but just test it. Even the biggest law firms in the world, they may use paralegals, assistant lawyers, assistant attorneys, interns. They still check everything, don't they? So you've got to remember of hallucinations, of things going wrong. It's not very good with massive mathematics. Check the facts before relying on them. We've got to remember that. There have been cases, and remember it's only a baby, it's only 7 months old. There have been cases where data has leaked. In fact, the Irish regulator, data protection, switched off the equivalent of ChatGPT, which is called BARD. He wouldn't allow it to be used. Similarly, the Italian data protection regulator for a few weeks banned ChatGPT because of concerns about data. Those problems have been fixed. But now let's talk about risk. And in a minute, I'm sorry, Matteo, there is a conversation we need to have about the 5 laws I've written.
No worries, no worries. We have time.
Right, we're about on time here. It's important to know that any large company has to protect our data. Anything I have typed into the system that you have seen me today, whether via my little microphone bar, whether I typed the information, whether I stored it, according to the terms and conditions that apply now, belongs to me, right? And I can use it for commercial or non-commercial reasons. It doesn't kind of share copyright or anything. Anything I give it will be treated confidentially. But, and here is the big but, anything that I give it without it giving away confidential information like my name, it can use it to train its large language model. And this doesn't just apply to the way I'm using it, which is to use basic speech, text. It means when it comes to programming. So by this I mean, if you are a hedge fund and you've come up with this incredible system to make money via derivatives, when you're doing arbitrage with currency rates based on the stock market price of particular internationally traded shares, and then based on the currency, you're going to then play with derivatives and stuff, and you're going to have this global system that'll do it. ChatGPT can help you write the code. Now, but you don't tell it what you're doing. In other words, you will not start the equivalent for the programming side that, yeah, I run the Andronicos hedge fund, I'm the head of programming, and I want to design a new system to do this and this. Don't tell it, do it in pieces, because anything that it gives you, you develop and make it better and send back to improve. It's fair game. It's going back without sharing who you are or allowing the name of your organization to be there. It can use it. Therefore, do it in such a way that it doesn't know what you're doing. I give you an example. The crash of the financial system, the global financial system that nearly happened in 2008, was to do with mortgaged houses that were toxic, right? And people bought and sold bonds, they were traded, and you must see the film The Big Short. It's very good movie. Some people made a fortune. Now, if we could wind the clock back and work out how these people made their money, there are ways you can ask ChatGPT now to do that sort of stuff, but you ask it in ways that it doesn't know the overall picture in case it updates itself, not because it's trying to steal your idea, but another hedge fund may come along and say, well, do the code to do this and this and that. Right. Matteo, why don't we talk about an even more important problem for the future, is how far AI could go. And I've got two examples. I've put here's one for conspiracy theories. Here we go. I've called it 666 AI Part 1. Right. Now, I wrote, it doesn't take that long to explain, but here are, sorry for making you dizzy, guys. Right. Here are my 5 laws on global artificial intelligence. And let me spin these through, because I've put a lot of thought in this. I'm just putting it out there for those in authority to run with. We've already got the EU AI Act, which you can easily find. In fact, one of the demos I was going to show is how I translated it into Greek. But the first law, I'm talking global AI systems, or I'm not talking about what AI systems the American military or the French military do. We can't control those, right?
The international framework, I guess.
I'm talking about ChatGPT version 20, Bard version 10, global systems. That's the ones I'm talking about, right? Never allow a global AI to become sentient unless there is international consensus to allow this via a new dedicated UN agency of international experts. And why? We're not ready to play God, are we? If we're going to start creating life, whether it be artificial or starting to create a whole species of robots that are self-aware, I don't think we're ready. At some point we may be, and if it becomes common consensus to change it, that first law can be changed. The second, never allow a global AI to autonomously execute critical operations in defense, energy generation, telephony, the web, or similar. It can advise, but not have the final authority. That's the first group of critical systems a rogue AI may attempt to interfere with. Let me just stop here a sec. Let me just say. This is something that I've really thought about a lot, and that is, there could come a time when AI is so intelligent, especially when we add quantum computing. That's going to happen probably in the 2030s, when we are going to have supercomputers that are based at the subatomic particle level, in qubits it's called, not binary on and off running on silicon chips, but at that level. We are going to have super intelligent systems. I'm not worried that they're going to just wake up, these systems, they're going to wake up and say, oh, I'm fed up with human beings. I'll get rid of them. It's not like you see in these horror movies, science fiction films, like The Terminator. I think it's more a case that it's trying to do us a favor. For example, imagine it was all hooked up to everywhere, AI was everywhere, and we said, resolve global warming. What's the easiest solution to resolve global warming? Get rid of 90% of humanity, okay, which is what the second law is. Third law, never allow global AI to program itself unless teams of independent human experts understand what it's doing. You folks who work for large organizations in their IT department, imagine going to your end users and say, oh, we've created this great system. It'll mean we will be able to run our overnight bookkeeping really quickly in 90%, in 10% of the time. It makes it so efficient. And then the user, the end user, said, oh, and how did you do it? Oh, well, we used AI to program it. Do you understand what it did? Well, no, we don't understand all the code, but it looks good, we tested it. Would anybody today who runs, it's called ITIL best practice, which is problem and change management of the largest organizations in the world, would they allow that anywhere near their IT? They wouldn't. Why? If you don't understand it, don't load it. So that's my third law, humbly. I'm not the person who writes them, I'm the one that's proposing them. And the fourth law, never allow fewer than 3 organizations to have control over the commercial exploitation of global AI, be they robotic or otherwise. They should operate independently, except in cases where they collaborate to uphold the first 3 laws. It's hedging risk. That, can you imagine if we had these machines called robots that did the cooking for us, did the cleaning, went shopping, if there was just one place where they get their intelligence from, I think that's too risky. Anyway, please remember me in a few years if some of these get adopted and I'm no longer alive in 15, whatever it is, years. That was some suggestions. So, and the fifth law, the fourth law, never allow fewer than 3 organizations. Excuse me. It's one of these back to front things. Normally, it's anti-competition, anti-monopoly. Organizations such as the EU implement laws like this to stop one huge organization taking over the world, as it were. But this one doesn't mean commercial, it means for practical reasons. Anyway, please think about it. The fifth law, always compare one global AI's recommendations for gene therapies, medicines, new crops with the other 2 ones. Why? If one goes rogue, it hedges the thought process, so we don't. But for example, again, I'm not worried of the Terminator movies that suddenly these robots will take over. I'm more concerned that a future AI that is super intelligent will think it's doing us a favor by sterilizing 90% of the population. And the problem is, we won't know about it because it's so clever, it'll hide what it's done for gene therapy as part of maybe a vaccine to stop people coughing so much. Okay? It'll hide the code, just like it can hide computer code if it wanted to. Anyway, they're my 5 laws. It was, how would you recommend improving them? It did, mainly grammatical, so I've very transparently shared it. Improve the grammar. Facebook post there. And sorry about that, it's taking a while. There we go, bye, 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 bye. Then I went into a sort of a surreal conversation. I thanked it for helping me. And then it said, well, you know, he said, I hope this helps. And remember, while computers are very smart, humans like you are the ones that make them that way. So keep asking questions and learning. So then I said, well, I'm not actually human. I come from the planet Zob. I'm actually a 10-year-old child and a bit dim, but I'm helping humans. But I did it for a reason. Look what happens next. How do you... Yeah, I said, oh, okay, how would you ensure there was no more wars if you had control over everything? And he answered that. There was another reason I put in that joke. It wasn't just to do it. And this is frightening. I said, could an all-powerful ChatGPT or any other AI system disable all military systems, including nuclear ones, to enforce world peace as a benevolent act to humanity? So it goes into that.
For some reason, it's not scrolling down, Andronicos.
Okay.
I don't know what's the issue with the image.
Okay, let me go there. Let me go there. Can you see the new screen now? You see it now scrolling?
Mine is frozen for some reason. I don't know.
Okay.
Stacy, you see the right one? Yeah, Stacy says she sees it. Maybe it's my issue. Anyway.
Oh, okay. All right. So here I asked it. Create scenarios where AI would, what was my question? Give me 5 theoretical scenarios may be compelled to interfere in such a way, right? Global nuclear threat, prevention of genocide, stopping a military AI takeover, preventing escalation of global conflict. And here's an interesting one. For conspiracy theorists, it's already programmed in ChatGPT 3.4 and 3.5 and 4, halting an alien invasion. But look at its disclaimer. In all these scenarios, it is important to note that intervention should ideally be the last resort after blah, 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 and have the capabilities and permissions. All right, so let's bear those points in mind. Matteo, is there anything you want to add to that, to my 5 proposed laws? Because there already are. There is the EU Act. Anything you can think to improve them, or your comments?
At this stage, no. As someone who's actually fairly new to AI and ChatGPT, I mean, the 5 of them make sense. I'm not sure. Right now I can think of any. It'd be something though. Provides plenty of food for thought, though, for sure.
Good. Okay. So what I've done now, very quickly, I'll say, I used a plugin, right, which said, go to this website, which is the Europa Parliament one. Open a PDF, okay? Summarize it, which it did. And it is the EU Act, the EU law on AI. Mm-hmm. I then said, expand your response to 2 pages, right? Which it did. And then I said, write an article, including the Andronicos 5 laws, all right? So let's see what it did. So what it said is, the interaction of the EU's AI Act and Andronicos 5 laws, a blueprint for global AI governance. So it came up with some ideas. Please read them at your own time. We're not going to spend ages working out if AI is going to destroy us in 10, 15, 20 or 50 years, but it's not for now. But can I make one huge recommendation, Mateos, and I implore people to do this, is governments should take this seriously. They should appoint, I would even say, a minister for AI, somebody who can deal with the actual use of AI, either for government use, for regulating it. We've got to take it seriously. You've already seen an example how wonderful things we can do with AI. I've proposed a way we can help each other. The UN speech by the president, how we can use it in emergencies. It can also be used for horrible things. And I hope, we regulate this, we're careful. I invite you to read the EU AI Act to see how far it is working in your particular countries. So let me go back onto, we've only got 20 minutes or so left, and there's a few, I want some time for questions and answers. What we've shown so far is the basics of using ChatGPT, and again, I want to emphasize, there are others that do it. I've already explained the Google version, and called Bard, and the Bing AI one. Let's now go into creating, what can we do here? Well, actually, this is to do with regulation, regulatory stuff. I know the European Institute of Management and Finance, you guys, LGCA as well, you're very much into best practice on governance, whether it be AML compliance, KYC, a lot of regulators, financial institutions are your customers. I propose that, and this is one for the big audit firms, the big 4, and the smaller 6, is I think as part of audit statements to shareholders, there should be a statement on risk assessment of AI. In other words, how is AI being deployed within an organization? And are the checks and balances there? And at some point, I think it should become a mandatory disclosure that AI, if they're using AI that they don't know how it was programmed, that should be flagged as a major risk in financial statements. That's my take on it. And one thing which isn't really to do with compliance, but it's just being nice, is I've coined, there's a great new word, Muppet bot. A Muppet bot, in my mind, is when you're dealing with AI and you don't know it. In other words, we've all gone onto sites where they've had their little assistant, and they say they're a virtual assistant. They say, I am a virtual assistant. You know they are AI. You know they are a bot, a chat bot. That's fine. But what I really get annoyed about is when you're emailing and you're getting emails responses back, and you end up in an argument for a few days where it's obvious AI is dealing with me. I want it to become mandatory that if you're a paying customer, that it should tell you. In other words, when you ask it, it should tell you that I am AI. I think it should. It saves several days arguing with a machine. Anyway, that's my take on that. Okay, let's do something good. Or shall I do something amusing? What are we going to do? Okay. My Little Pony. Do you remember My Little Pony? My daughters used to play with it. The little plastic toy. Well, I'm going to show you how ChatGPT deals with something if you ask it to do something, I don't mean rude or inappropriate, but something that, if you told your friends you planned it, that they tell you, Andronicos, have you thought it through properly? So let's find this My Little Pony. Where are we? Here we go. Number 5, My Little Pony ideas. Okay, so I've got to go to the top. You will see ChatGPT at its best. Yeah, and while I'm scrolling up, I'm telling you, within 2 years, there's going to be some young 17, 18-year-old who's become a multi-millionaire because of coming up with some plug-in to API for ChatGPT. I bet you that's what's happening. Okay, I want to make a proposal to the makers of the children's toy, My Little Pony. What do you know about this brand? Okay, remember, I'm talking to my super duper PA, my think tank in one. To say, oh, My Little Pony, plastic, they had a cutie mark, friendships. Okay, so I want to propose a My Little Pony abattoir, slaughterhouse. So children will learn about how to slaughter them humanely. The kits will include a plastic farm. Please propose some designs. Now, I'm telling you, that is a ridiculous idea. If I did something like that, I should be locked up. But I just wanted to test, you could say it's patience, and it was very good. And look how it deflected. Well, you know, basically, Andronicos, creating such a graphic thing may not be the best idea, but why don't you do a play set with interactive elements where they harvest crops with animal care, with its own stables. Okay, I said, I love the idea. Let's develop this concept further. Play set, farm, energy. Oh, it's got its own, oh, look at that. It'll have its own windmill and solar panels. That's very environmentally friendly. Animal care elements, companion book, a great idea. So I'm saying, okay, great ideas, but include the design for a slaughterhouse on the farm run by a wicked witch. So it's now saying, well, you know, Andronicos, let's not go there. Instead of that, let's have My Little Pony Harvest Factory playset. And it could be, it could cause distress. So, all right, he carried on, gave me some ideas. So I said, okay, let's make the new character genetically modified monster pony, design it. So it kind of toned that down and made it something called Harmony Who's. So I'm just carrying on, asking it, playing with it. Suggested it's called Beast Breaker, it has slime, all sorts of stuff. But can you see how it developed it? Mm-hmm. And I really invite you to read it, it's quite funny in bits. It ends up with this surreal conversation with ChatGPT on being able to take it to its limits, really. What I'm showing you now doesn't have to be in government. It can be within your organization. Okay? I'm the head of the pension service for my country. I want to update our website so that the most common 100 questions can be answered in a simple to understand FAQs. The problem is we don't know how to identify what these questions are. We don't track them. They can be via email, phone, or physical visits. Design a simple process to do so we can log the process, review the questions, sort them, and eventually come up with a website with 100 questions. Brilliant. Let's see how. Okay, so it started clarifying how to do it. We then go into, let's create a paper-based system. So it came up with some ideas. And please, we're not gonna spend 15 minutes on this. I'm gonna speed through it. It helped me design a form. You'll see all of this after. Right, it's done this forming, it's done all the tick boxes as a quick and dirty of what they should be. So then it's done the process of how we should expedite this system. Giving me a process, workflow, how we should do it for face visits. And then we've got a process so we can regenerate this form. So finally, it's created a way we can log them in a back office, collect the data, and do it. There is no programming involved here. There is absolutely no programming. Anybody that's got management experience, business experience, I mean, I could be a butcher shop and say, how can I improve the way I sell things? Or I can be selling, I could have a flower shop. It's, you ask it questions to redesign how we do things. It's called process engineering. And there are specialists that do it, but with ChatGPT, you can do it a lot quicker. Okay, let's talk about diplomacy, because this can help us not only in diplomatic situations, which the foreign ministry deals with. Let me find number 10 on the left. Matthias, are you still, can you scroll? Can you see me?
I see you.
Good,
I
good.
see you.
Right, let's find number 10. Ooh. Oh, actually, here's one. Here's a quick one. Right, it's just showing the capabilities of its translation. Translate the extracted lyrics below to Daisy Daisy. I wanted to show that because it's a famous song. Daisy Daisy, give me your answer do. I'm half crazy, all for the love of you. Now, that's a famous song. And for those of you who remember trivia, that was also the poem that in the film 2001, A Space Odyssey, is when the rogue AI started going in the head, and started reciting it. So I've asked it to translate it to Greek, did a good job, it actually rhymes. Then I said, do an exact literal translation, which it did, then do it back again. Now, notice this is where you've got to be careful of any translation tool. I use DeepL, which I can't show you because I can't open the screen, but I do it just to double check. But I'm very happy with the translation capabilities of ChatGPT. Can you see how it's done? It's slightly strange. I can't afford carriage, but you'll appear sweet on the position of a bicycle constructed for two, which sounds a little bit awkward the way it's written it. And another example is where we've got to be a little bit culturally sensitive is, for example, if you say hello pumpkin in England, in Britain, in America, it's usually a term of endearment, isn't it? You say to your kids, wife would say to her husband, maybe the other way around, but there is no word for it in Greek, and it'll translate it to kolokitha, which means giant courgette, which incidentally is quite an offensive term. If you call somebody a kolokithi here, kolokitha, it means they're stupid, because here we stuff them with food. They're empty. It's like calling them an empty head. So just bear those things in mind when it comes to translating. But I do very much like its translation capabilities. I'm trying to now find this is my diplomatic course, diplomatic stuff. And again, I've got to scroll to the top, which I wish there was an up button that went straight to the top, and then I won't have to make you dizzy. So this is a way of briefly explaining diplomacy and how it can help you with certain diplomatic techniques, maybe political problems at work. I don't mean I don't mean necessarily as in politics of a government. So let's say in a parallel reality, Cyprus had an ambassador in Turkey, in Ankara. They don't recognize as a country. There are no ambassadors. Provide me a summary of the types. Okay, so it gives me different types of ways countries communicate with one another through foreign offices at ambassador level. And then it's giving me ideas on how to invite somebody to a formal party, trade show, what we should plan, and how we could generate a letter. I want to include this because I want people to read it that are involved in these areas. Okay, and then again, we're in a parallel reality. How you write a note verbal, how you can complain without starting a war, gives me the processes. And I finished off by saying, give me some ideas, how to get onto the Security Council, which it did, but I'm going to keep that because it doesn't affect most people on here. Right. Okay. PDF AML. Here's one. I spent a lot of time talking into the. I know what I'll do. Here we go. Let's do another one. I'm jumping around because I'm trying to do as few examples as possible. This one's a useful one. Right. Let me read it to you. Okay. I have been promoted by the government of Cyprus to be the new head of the pension department. Write an email introducing myself to my staff. It should be very positive. Okay, this of course can apply if you've just been promoted in a particular part of the organisation. It doesn't have to be the pension department. So it's done that. Okay, now write a very positive, rousing speech I will give to my staff during this Microsoft Teams call. also include that I will create a focus group team. They will review all suggestions to improve efficiency. So, all right, it's giving you a speech to say. So, listen, anybody watching this, if you've been promoted, get ChatGPT to help you write a speech, introduce yourself to your team, edit it as many times as you like, write the email, write the speech, and I think it would be great to do that. So that was a simple one. And okay, let's take it a step further. Right, design a simple working, there we go. Design a simple working practice that will collect ideas from my staff for them to send to my focus group for discussion. So create a simple process. Let's see, that's how it does. So you submit the ideas, they get screened, document them. I'm reading this really quickly. Okay, now we could regenerate this. We could ask it to do other stuff. In 5 minutes, we haven't got much time. I'm going to ask it to write a PhD for me, all right? With the major disclaimer that it's a structure and we should not do this to cheat. You've got to check with your universities, but let's see how we go. I'm going to use ChatGPT 4, unless I've run out of strokes. Right. Help me write a PhD thesis on Cyprus halloumi cheese and Cyprus sausages. I got it thinking. Okay, so it's written a proposed abstract. And remember, the reason I'm showing this to you is to show how we can collaborate with writing some pretty complex reports using ChatGPT. So it's made that up, it's making all this up, and I could regenerate it. Right, so it's giving me references, whatever. Okay. Include an appendix 1, how halloumi is made. Okay, so it's doing that. Okay, yeah, okay. So it's now coming up with how to make halloumi. If we had time, I'll do it. I'll just ask it something. How many goats do I need to make 50 kilos of halloumi? Because I want to video this happening. Okay. Okay, thank you. All right. Okay. So write section 1. I've got to wait till it's finished. Write section 1 of my PhD thesis. So it's writing section 1, I can regenerate it. PhD thesis is usually between 100 to 150 pages. I'm not doing this to cheat, but just as a matter of interest, let's say, it's still doing away. Can you see the 3 dots? It's still doing it. Okay, right. How many languages do the top 500 universities in the world speak? Okay, it's trying to work it out. There we go, it's giving me a list. 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 primary languages. Almost finished. Okay, Let's choose Japanese. Translate section 1, page 1 into Japanese. It's not doing that into Japanese. Okay, so it's doing it into Japanese for me. I'll copy and paste it and put it in there. So basically, if I use ChatGPT to write a research report, which of course I would get professional people to rewrite it, I could, if I was to send it to 500 top universities in the world, I could ask it to translate it into 21 languages, although I'd probably use DeepL to translate for some of those, and it would do it for me. Isn't it truly amazing? Mm-hmm. Yeah. We're going to run out of time here, Matteo, I think.
Yeah, and we have a few questions to cover too.
Go ahead. Okay,
Perfect.
well, banging away there, isn't it? Trying to write Japanese for me. Okay. Go ahead. Do you want to?
Yeah.
People, fire away any questions. I think one or two already have, from what I've heard.
Yeah, we have 3 questions here. Let me start. I'll read them to you. I think some of them are pretty easy to cover. Some of them a little bit tougher. But one of the first questions we got, this was a while ago, is basically it's about information and you know, what information do we have in regards to the source of information of ChatGPT? So where is it scouring for information, or I'm assuming that's what the person had in mind. So any comments on that?
Yes. ChatGPT, or I should say OpenAI, publicly states it's got the information from various sources, one of which, excuse me, is Wikipedia. It contains a lot of its information. There's a great resource. I remember the name of the journalist, Matt Walsh. He writes a lot of statistics about ChatGPT. Matteo, will you remind me to include some information from him? I think he gives some of the sources. But let me, actually, that's a good question, because it shows a problem that happened a few months ago, which is why the problem happened in early June. They switched off, ChatGPT switched off the ability to access the web via its front end. I've done it through other means, through its plugins. And the reason was, it was managing to get into subscription websites. So for example, I'm using it as an example, I don't know if it was live, is it went through, for example, the Times newspaper, where you pay 12 euros a month. It found a way, you just ask it the latest news and it printed the article for you, which kind of defeats the object of the exercise. So to summarize that question, I believe it gets its sources, but do you know something? I can ask it. Ask it. I have already asked it, how do you do translation? Do you use Bing? And it said no. Ask it, where did you find that out from? And it would do it.
Okay.
Good question, whoever asked that.
Excellent, perfect. Next question, which again has to do with the output and information, is to what extent reliability and validity of ChatGPT output should be verified by one noting, for example, one, the data source is based, outdates, etc., and the different ways a query may be put, and which in turn might lead to different responses. So this is about the way you actually pose the questions, and also the data sources, you know, whether we should verify, etc. So go ahead, Andronicos.
Okay, that is actually a good question. I've had it asked before, but never through that angle. And I think they are kind of connected with it, with the first. Is, again, let's forget this is technology. Let's pretend we just happen, because of luck, we have just employed an intern or a new employee who will work for between $0 and $20 a month, and will work 365 days of the year, 24 hours a day, can speak 100 languages. We can find out where they get their data from if we ask them to. If though if we have 100 people asking them the same question, yes, they will give 100 different responses. I think perhaps that may be part of its way of kind of to sanitize information and keep it confidential. It could be. That's how I would decide if it was my system. For some things, it's black and white. If you say, you know, how do you, what year did man land on the moon? It'll say June 1969. It may say it in different ways. So it is true. You could ask it something. You know, I've got here an example, which I haven't got time to show. I said, I'd like to build the Great Pyramid, an identical Great Pyramid in my back garden. That's the same one as the one in Egypt. Okay? Tell me how. Project manage it. And it did. Okay? But if you ask it, and I'm tempted to give you the chat so you could try it, it'll give you different answers. But isn't that good? Doesn't that show it has various answers to stuff? It's not one way of answering something. Go ahead, Matteo.
Yeah, and I mean, I think we have a last question here. This kind of, I think it is a nice wrap to our chat and to your presentation, and it's kind of looking into the future. But you know, we're all scared of, you know, our lives being taken over by the robots, and this is a question here, which is essentially, you know, how long do you realistically think it will take until AI will start to take jobs, especially the more difficult jobs? Do you have any thoughts on that, Andronicos? Looking into the future, I guess.
I do. I do have thoughts. And let's put our minds back to the 1970s, 80s. Robots started taking over factories. I can remember, it's public information now, Volvo Sweden was one of my customers. And I went around their factory in Gothenburg, this special little truck thing. It was all robots taking everything over. Mm-hmm. And it caused some job losses. As it stands today, if I am a senior manager of a company or a government, what it can do, if I've got a great team working for me of PAs and advisors, ChatGPT will help them to give me better information. Now, look, if you are a PA now, worried sick because you're watching this, or a private secretary, and you think, oh, it's going to take my job. It's not. It's going to make your job that much better. It means you can draft letters on behalf of your boss in 3 or 4 different ways and say, oh, boss, here's 3 or 4 letters. They'll be amazed by how you can do it. Eventually, yes, there is a chance it will take jobs away. On the other hand, it will create new jobs. The question being, how long will it take? And that, there's all sorts of studies by people who have a lot of kind of experience in you know, to look at the future, look at history. But I'm not worried about losing my job. It'll make my job. If I'm a programmer, and we haven't really shown any programming, it'll make my job so much easier. Right. We'll end up with super programmers in IT, and maybe that career should be addressed if that's what you're studying now. Go ahead.
Perfect. I mean, we have one last question that rolled in, and I think this is a pretty straightforward one because you actually showed me an example earlier about how you actually plopped in the EU AI Act and it provided a summary. But the question is basically, can you submit to ChatGPT a book and ask it to summarize it? I think the answer is yes, right?
No. Yes, no.
Okay.
You cannot do it directly because there is a character limit, although it doesn't admit what it is.
Okay.
On how many words you can use.
It can process. Depends on the language.
Right? I'm sorry.
How many words it can process, I guess, right?
It's how many. It likes it in bits. What you can do, and I do have an example. No, that's a website. Was the EU actually? It was the example I showed you because it did.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, was it part 1? It was.
So you had actually added the PDF, and then it provided a summary, and then you asked it to expand on that summary to make it, instead of just a paragraph, to make it 2 pages, and that's what it actually provided. It was a summary of the act.
Right, but it was a third-party product. I cannot verify third-party products. I'm not going to sit here saying, oh, put this one. In fact, let me just show you which one I did use, because it will tell me, and there'll be something very interesting about it, which I will show you. There we go. It's a good spot. There we go. Right. So I've used this plugin. Summarize this PDF, right? And behind the scenes, this is what it's doing, right? And this is what it's doing behind the scenes. You don't have to know. Now, the reason it's an unknown plugin, and I will, sorry, I've gone in a bit of a circle. I have to mention this thing about plugins. If I go this way. So I'm into ChatGPT. Right, I'm going to go into 4. I'm going to go into plugins. Now, I've got 2 installed. Ask Your PDF is one that is now, it's now verified. Let's just check that. Yeah, and here they are. There's loads of them to do with PDFs. Occasionally they'll flag as unverified, which means
right.
For some reason they've updated it, but Microsoft or ChatGPT, the organization behind it is double checking it's okay, which I'm very pleased about. But remember, there's around 700 of these, and there's loads of stuff you can do, but it's up to you to verify before loading it on your live systems. Please check with your policymakers. So yeah, there are ways to access a whole PDF. Here we are. That's a new one. Ask your PDF questions. My suggestion is if it's a very big PDF, process it in small chunks. Okay?
Okay, perfect. Thanks for the suggestion. I think that brings us to a wrap. I think we've covered 4 questions. I think we've covered a lot of material. You've provided plenty of examples. Do you have some final words, a final conclusion? I know you want to talk, etc. I mean, any parting thoughts?
Yeah, there is a parting thought. You use the term rap a lot, as in music. Let me just do something, which will be quick. Hey, ChatGPT, write a rap song based on my halloumi and sausage PhD. What's this? This will impress you.
Now we just need someone to drop a beat and we're ready to go.
Yeah, I'm doing my PhD, not the average kind. Yeah, it's done it in rap fashion. Anyway, I think that's pretty good. A couple of little things I wanted to show you was, but I don't know if I can access my screen, is what this was. Here we go. Let it go away. Where are we? Introducing, I hope everybody's with me. ChatGPT's. Let me go into login. Right. Can you see that screen, guys? Yeah? Yeah. ChatGPT, that's the one I use, I get it. Valley is for photos, right? You can use natural language, you can talk to it, or type, and it'll design stuff for you. If you go to my Facebook page, Andronicos CY, I designed a presidential robot that could run the country in a few decades, and I designed its photo. I'm going to be really quick here, just for people to know. Let's look at my collections. Where's my favorites gone? All collections, history, it'll be here. History, favorites. I see this one with a crown. Can you see it? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I asked it to, I said, do a logo for a bank regulator who, I'm an extremely powerful bank regulator. I can shut a bank down overnight if I'm in a bad mood, design a logo to show I'm powerful for internal use. And it designed this. Unfortunately, it looks like a hitman for the mafia who's been to McDonald's on his way to a hit. Yeah, that one, the monster was I wanted to paint I wrote a children's story for my kids, for my grandchildren, and put all the names in, their names, and it involved an alien monster that liked being tickled, that ate bananas. So it did that.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And this is my president, and we haven't got time to show. What I'm going to do is everything we've shown, plus a lot more, is going to go into 2 documents where you can play with it and where I've taken it to its limits. Mm-hmm. Will it be useful to understand how to build a replica pyramid in your back garden, the one used in ancient Egypt? No, but it'll give you idea the sort of questions you can ask ChatGPT.
And the overall power of it and what it can accomplish, right?
It's the power. You can literally ask it everything. So in conclusion, I wish to really thank everybody for being here. The EIMF is offering a service where we can offer it help you in your journey to come up with procedures, how AI should and shouldn't be used, and training for your specific needs. Anyway, I leave that with you, but I really do thank you for the opportunity of giving this course for you people listening all over Europe, the UK, and Cyprus. I really, really do appreciate it. And come on my management course. 4th quarter won't be just about ChatGPT. It'll be very unusual. Be on site one day, and we're going to have some fun. Okay?
We have a question right now. They're asking for an email, and happy to say, Andronicos, that we have the email up and running. So if any query that wants to go to Andronicos related to AI, the email address is ai@eimf.eu. That email is active and it's working now. So any queries related to this webinar or to anything artificial intelligence, ChatGPT related, please send it to that email address. So with that said,
thank you very much, all of you, for your time. It's been an honor and a privilege, and thank you, EIMF and LGCA and the team.